No problem. I apologize for that. Before
I wasn't going to read it while you were talking anyway.
Thank you. Yesterday I got to speak with a friend of mine, Steve Knight, Assembly. He voiced and gave me permission to talk at this council meeting, saying that when he was in council, he worked hard to get rid of the red light cameras. He felt that they were unconstitutional and he is against them. Also, I have a letter here from State Assembly Tim Donnelly, and it says, Victorville City Council members, I am writing this letter to express my opposition to red light cameras. There are more and more cases of courts denying the evidence of what has come to be known as photo enforcement citations. The fact of the matter is the citations without law enforcement witness is an alleged violation and are untrustworthy. For instance, motion is not picked up in still photos. Therefore, you cannot tell if the vehicle is moving or is still, giving an incomplete record of events. Also, an electronic camera can be manipulated, interpolated, or uninterpolated to precede an image that has been given an inaccurate account of the facts. We citizens live with enough government intrusion in our lives without adding these cameras to our communities. I would encourage the city of Victorville to vote no on the red light cameras. Godspeed, Tim Donnelly. Also, I'd like to say, when we go and vote people in the office, people come up to the Tea Party. We are a new organization. They have come up and they've spoke, and we put people in the office with what they say. We applaud Angela for sticking to her word and trying to get these things on the agenda and taken care of. So thank you, Angela, for that. I'd like to conclude that the Tea Party will hold people equally accountable for not holding up to their word, and the election is in a couple of years from that or sooner. So thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight, Mayor, Council member. I just finished a 5-year conversation with the Internal Revenue. A government agency, the Internal Revenue Service. They were claiming that I owed some taxes from the years 2002, 2003, and 2004. I finally told them about a year ago, if you really still believe that, because I can prove, and I've proven to you 3 times already, by sending you documents that I don't really do, I paid the tax, take me to court, and I'll show it to the judge, and I know what will happen. Nothing happened for 14 months. Last week, they levied my bank account without warning me. And I finally found somebody in there, never talking to the same person twice, because it's hard in government organization. He said, well, it's right here in front of me. And it did it all the time. There's a lot of frustration in people trying to deal with governments, and we realize, gentlemen, ladies, Mr. Fox, we all have a lot on your plate. You're the chair of, what, 5 different agencies or entities tonight, different districts and stuff. You've got a lot to deal with. But it can get really, really difficult. It's getting increasingly difficult in this modern world of modern communication, instant communication, to communicate with our governments. Now, aren't we all glad we don't live in Egypt, or Tunisia, or Yemen, or Jordan? What's different? They have constitutions, but they don't have ours. Our Constitution is unique in the history of the human race. It sits upon the foundation of the Declaration of Independence, which, as we all know, we hold these truths to be self-evident. It talks about natural rights, God-given rights, depending on your flavor you want. But that's the solid foundation on which our U.S. Constitution sits. It's the framework for all law in our culture. Our society is unique in the history of the world because we chose to put focus on the individual, not on the state. It says in there, in Article 1, as I'm sure you all know, you've all read it, I've got complimentary copies for you, I'll give them to the clerk after the meeting. You're welcome. It says in Article 1 that there shall be one representative, one member of the House of Representatives for every 30,000 population. And they shall be elected by popular vote. Not anointed, elected. That means, I would argue, their job is to listen to the people who have entrusted them with their well-being. Now, anyone who has ever been in the United States military, anyone who has ever worn a badge, usually referred to as police officers or law enforcement, I hope they think of themselves as peace officers. And anyone who has ever been elected to any level of government office in this country is required by our Constitution, required by the founders of our country, to take an oath before God to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Since all law in our country is derived from that, I just call that to your attention. If courts are finding that things are contrary to the Constitution, then any elected official either is going to live up to that oath, they're going to keep that oath, or they're going to break it. So each elected official, each member of the military, each person who wears a badge, each fireman, they have a choice to make every day. They're putting their lives on the line. And let's just hope and pray that we're not going to fall to the point where, because our elected officials at any level don't listen to us, that we're not going to get into situations that our good friends, the poor people who live in countries like Egypt, Tunisia, etc., where their government refuses to listen to them and they have to go to the streets. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Wood, before I bring you up, I actually have several other cards that were not a part of the pile. I'd like to, I know, Mr. Lodge, you do want to address the council, so I'm going to have you come up next, but Terry Westergren,
I yield my time.
you'll yield your time. Diana Colvin? Diana here?
On the back of the card there to yield.
You'll yield, okay. Emily Ann Selden?
Yeah, I yield.
Yield, okay. John Russell? John Russell?
Some people go home.
Okay. Rochelle Freeman? And Joseph Picado? Okay. So, Mr. Laws, you're up, and then Mr. Wood, I'll have you next.
Well, it's good to see the Tea Party here tonight. By the way, the Tea Party is no joke. It's very real. It'll be around probably for 100 years if we don't change things. Now, first of all, I'd like to thank the CHP and the local papers for putting their volunteers in there, saying we volunteer. I'd like to thank the sheriff for mentioning about the volunteers volunteer too. That's very important. Thanks to some of my Marine buddies who are all in the military. We were in the Department of Highway Patrol, Sheriff's, LAPD, whatever. The only reason they exist is because I put my 45 or my M1 over my Kentucky rifle over the fireplace. I don't want to forget that. All right, let's start with this. We've got 180 seats here, evidently. So a few have lost a few, but most of them have stayed. That's fantastic. The Second Amendment defends the Constitution. And I believe more guns, less crime. I mean, in the vehicle, if we get the state to ever turn their mind around about that, at home, and wherever it needs to be done. Concealed weapons or on their hips like they do in Arizona and Utah. Secondly, I consider the cameras to be unconstitutional. That's my personal opinion. Less cameras, maybe less accidents. Question I have for the sheriff as well as for the council is this. How many accidents were actually caused by people who first saw the lights, and when they first put them in, how many accidents did we actually receive? And by the way, anything that the sheriff put out in the booklet on the review of all this, I would appreciate the city council vote that we can have a copy of that, either in letter form or some kind of form, okay? Lastly, let's see, where do we go here? Most people who run red lights are either thinking about something else or they really want to do it. Those who don't run red lights or had to stop suddenly because when we first started out with this, which was expressed by our people here, that they didn't know whether to put their foot on the brake, whether they had 2 seconds left, or whether they had just enough time to get through safely without having a picture of them. I think, fortunately, at last, we can't afford it. For the amount of money we're going to spend on lights, we can hire ourselves 3 more sheriffs, my personal opinion. All right? Secondly, but lastly, as an old Marine and a Minuteman, 30 grandkids and 22 great-grandkids. I moved up from South Bay, one of the original Bay Watchers, before I got old and my teeth fell out. That's the old private joke. Brother Al got me a new surfboard, but I don't surf anymore. I told him I'm 2,300 and whatever his feet up here. And he said, what do you do with your teeth? And I said, oh, he says, oh, just put me in a pocket and scare the sharks half to death. Anyway, that's about it. I'll say again, people who are going to run red lights, they're going to do it anyway. The ones, the real citizens who are trying not to run the red light will probably end up running it anyway because they can't stop sudden enough, or the car behind them is going to put them right through the red light, period. So, let's see what we can do, and I'll end up with this. The Tea Parties are no joke. The 9/12ers are no joke. I've got John Hancock on one side and Stephen Austin on the other. And my old double chin hand says, don't you forget your heritage. I won't. But I'm a citizen of this community. I belong to Victorville, and Victorville belongs to me. God bless you and people are here.
Thank you, sir. So I have 3 hours and 15 minutes.
I've been told it was condensed down to 10 minutes, but that's Mr. Jensen telling me that. So, and since he's the leader of the Tea Party, you'll have to turn to him.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I come here to speak to you about the red light cameras. Sometimes, I've been to a lot of city council meetings, sometimes people step up to this podium and they talk for their 3 minutes, and at the end, I don't have a clue what they were talking about. It's very interesting. Maybe you guys know, maybe you don't. So let me start by being very clear. I've come here on behalf of the Tea Party to encourage this council to get rid of these red light cameras. Very simple. I ask you, and I hope that you take this under very careful consideration. It's a very simple question. Does this council aim to violate your citizens' rights? It's a very simple question. And I ask you as you drive home tonight to carefully consider it. Ask yourself, do you want to see the headlines of a local newspaper or a national newspaper that says Ryan McCaffrey violated his citizens' rights? You'd be ashamed, as would I if I were in your position. As I hope anybody who takes an oath to serve their community would be ashamed to read that in print or see it on the evening news. These red light cameras are maybe blown a little bit out of proportion because after all, it is just a red light camera. But the issue is that it does violate your citizens' rights. And I'm sympathetic to the fact that this council is in a tough spot. You're in a contract with a private company. I've read the contract. I have a copy of it. You're in a contract. And you may hear evidence, you may hear statistics, as Ms. Vaya has very competently pointed out, that are very easily skewed, saying that these things stop traffic accidents, that they cause traffic accidents. This is my position on the traffic accident issue. I don't care. If you passed an ordinance requiring that every citizen in the city of Victorville install cameras in their homes, in every single room, including the restrooms, you could significantly reduce incidents of domestic violence, incidents of child abuse, incidents of sex offenses, right? And we could all pat ourselves on the back and say, look at the good job we've done. We put cameras in every single person's house, and we reduce crime. And while that would be great to reduce crime, to what end? To what cost? You would be violating your citizens' rights by putting cameras in